My experience in baseball is that owners take responsibility for things that work and they delegate responsibility after the fact to things that don't. My experience as a team president is that I had to be a shield for my owner, and I did it gladly. More so every 2 weeks, but certainly gladly. Totally understandable. His money, his risk. I'm the operator. Very few owners take responsibility for decisions they make that have gone wrong publicly. And if you would ask me to make a list of meddling owners, I would say there's 30, 100%, no matter what anyone tells you. And if you ask me to give you the top 5 meddling owners, which you could ask me to do, I would do that list. And I would have Ken Kendrick on that list in the top 5. Ken Kendrick is the owner of the Arizona Diamondbacks. Ken Kendrick is incredibly involved, and I know that firsthand. Ken Kendrick is the one, actually, who said we're not doing the Jose Fernandez trade. We had him traded to Arizona, and he's the one who said he didn't want to do it after it was agreed to, might I add. Ken Kendrick went on a podcast or the radio, and he said to Burns and Gambo, amazingly, looking back in hindsight, a horrible decision to have invested that money in a guy that performed as poorly as he did. Do you know who he's talking about? He's talking about Jordan Montgomery. Let me say it the best way I can say it, he said. If anyone wants to blame anyone for Jordan Montgomery being a D-back, you're talking to the guy that should be blamed because I brought it to their attention. I pushed for it and they agreed to it. Let me go back here, Coca, and talk to you about what that means specifically. Owners go to baseball people with ideas that come from all sorts of people, various family members, various people who come in contact with the owner, from waiters to landscapers, to friends, to Romans, to countrymen. Everybody's got an opinion because, as you know, everybody knows how to run a baseball team. And so the owner says, I'm going to bring this to the baseball guys. None of that is extraordinary, nor is that worthy of being noted. What is worth it to discuss is when the owner gets an idea from somebody, because very rarely does it come from them studying tape or data. They'll go and say, this is what we are doing. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Our owner said, we are signing Ichiro, one of the greatest decisions we ever made. It was not a discussion. Our owner said, we're signing Pudge Rodriguez. It's not a discussion. And you're paying him $10 million. But our payroll is only 30. We're going to pay a guy $10 million right now. You're damn right we will. You're going to thank me later. And so we did. Right during the World Series parade. It's a very interesting thing when it works out. But when it doesn't, I never really heard from owners. So why would Ken Kendrick come out and say this now? Is he covering up for Derek Hall? I don't think so. Is he covering up for their baseball ops department? Hasn't? I don't think so. And then I realized that Ken Kendrick and the Arizona Diamondbacks are in the middle of a major stadium push. They either need to refurbish with public money Chase Field, or they need to build a new ballpark. And they're not relocating. So they need some amount of likability for their owner. It's not easy to find likability for owners in general, and specifically for Ken Kendrick. However, by doing a mea culpa like this, you can't come out and say, listen, I love you so much, Phoenix, that I would never ask you for any public money at all. I love this team, this city, this group of people and fans. Of course, you can't have an owner say that because they'd be lying. Of course, they need public money. No matter what they say, the percentage of private money will be used toward a new ballpark. So how about coming out and saying, hey, we won the pennant last year. We missed the playoffs by a game because the Braves and Mets conspired to split a doubleheader, smartly so. So therefore, we didn't make the playoffs. Our fault. We could have won an extra game somewhere amongst the 162. I don't want to blame conspiracies or Mets or Braves, but man, I got to say something. And you remember only a month ago, we talked about Jordan Montgomery because they didn't let him start another game. We revisited the wait to see yesterday, where Jordan Montgomery didn't get to 22 games started because he would have earned more money. As it is, he signed a 1 year plus a vesting option that has been vested already. It's all quite funny to me. Jordan Montgomery is the same guy who fired Scott Boras thinking he should have gotten more guaranteed money and a better deal. And it turns out he ought to be genuflecting towards Scott Boras. He got anyone to pay him anything because he stinks. So Ken Kendrick is going over the roster and he's trying to figure out what can we do here? I want to be likable and I want to get a message out to my fans and to the politicians. And I really need to acknowledge culpability, but I can't do it with Eduardo Rodriguez as an example. Remember him, Eduardo Rodriguez, the Tigers pitcher who didn't want to get traded to a contender, the Dodgers, because he didn't want to move his family, whatever the case may be. And I only said, you better have some serious issues with the children because otherwise that's a competitive issue. And then he signed for $80 million with the Diamondbacks. And then he was hurt half the year, came back. I think he started 10 games for them. You can't call him out because you're stuck with him. Untradeable in every way. Have to eat way too much money to move Rodriguez. But Montgomery, he of the 6.23 ERA, why don't I burn that bridge, torch it actually? I can be likable. It can help our stadium push. And I can get rid of Jordan Montgomery. It's brilliant.